Okay, so we're gonna do the third episode minus the walnut. Someone has a walnut for a brain. Anyway, so we were showing this thing earlier in the resin tank or in the UV cure. So what you're gonna find as you get these prints, which I'll show next, is it will automatically Swiss cheese your print, right? Because it needs drainage. So this is a result of how I printed the lid for this. And then what I have found is that this is an imperfect print that I pulled. Right? Really cool outside, actually. And this was supposed to be for Nintendo Switch games. And that I'm not tickled with. Right? So I'm not in love with that print, which obviously means I'm gonna have to go find another print, which I guess Dad does stuff, so Dad's sitting down to do stuff, so we're gonna do episode 3. Now, you can see where I printed on my PLA printer, which is kind of like a hot glue gun for 3D printers. The pieces that are gonna fit, that would fit, those question marks would fit in that box and make it pop color-wise. And then these are for the Nintendo Switch holder that I made for frickin' Savannah and Katrina. Let's see. I'm gonna have to get my GoPro, I guess, set up. Let's see. I don't even know. Anyway, so this is how it comes off the PLA printer, right? So that's the resin printer, right? Which I said prints in a liquid bath. Shit. And this is the PLA printer. So the PLA printer is a different animal altogether. It comes off double shit. Comes off a spool like this, and it's a hard filament, which I have some down here. This is an example. So it's hard. So it's kind of like think of hot glue, and it comes in a spool like this. Two very distinctly different printers for two very distinctly different purposes. These PLA printers are fantastic for printing structures, right? Like this. Especially if you have it set right. And this, there, give a mad plug. Someone else wants to break bread with their PLA printer, I will print something on it and tell you what I think, I suppose. And you can see that I have multiple styles of PLA in reels, plus that reel, and then I have the resin. Okay, so there you go. Enough whatever, I guess. So this prints this, and when done correctly, it will, definitely gonna have to get a GoPro, will peel off like that. So this then becomes a Mario pipe from the game, which coincidentally I have sized my little buddy here, like I said earlier, on the stuff station. I really like naming things, actually. So once I paint him, he will sit there, and then this holds all of Katrina's games, which I guess I'll show you a finished product of what that's a piece of. Like I said, I'm new to this, so don't judge that I don't know how to make one of these videos. Guess I could have switched to myself. Anyway, so this is what I made for her Nintendo Switch. And so Mario will stand in that pipe when I'm done painting him, and then bang, some mad Nintendo props, which I hope, they don't sue me for. But at any rate, that's what that item is. So that's what Mario's for. And I've made 3 of them now. And so one's for B, one's for Savannah, and one's for J. So I need to print yet another Mario. So, since, look at the mess I've made. Things have occurred. And you're just going to have to bear with me, because if you're watching the video, you don't have a lot of choice. Anyway, this will not involve that printer, right? So the resin printer, which is where my second little Mario comes from. Not a middle finger. What's up, my dude? Again, hope I don't get sued by Nintendo. And so that pipe, like I showed you, is part of that print. Now I need to change out the spools to print another base, which we've got a variety of colors here. I guess if you're interested in one or whatevers, we can, leave a comment or something, and I'll work it into my rotation of Dad doing stuff. But we printed these pieces in red, the pipes in red, so we need something that kind of pops with the red. So I think we'll probably do maybe this purple. So we're gonna switch the camera around. What you're getting is not. Again, I'm gonna get a 3D printer, or 3D printer. The GoPro out and put it up on a tripod so I keep track. So they're all vacuum sealed when you get them. So look in the vacuum seal. They all come with a desiccant, right, to keep moisture out. PLA, very sensitive to moisture. So you can't leave PLA sit in the machine long term, because it's going to absorb moisture, and then that is going to cause the PLA to become very brittle, right? So then it'll just snap off or whatnot. We'll show you the resin print for the next Mario tomorrow. So, or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, probably tomorrow. So anyway, so I have my little bench set up, and I turn this jazz on, and like I said, someone wants to send me a different PLA printer. Don't mind this resin. That's a different printer altogether. We're dealing with PLA at the moment. Here's a mixer I made for my wife's batter for her KitchenAid. Yeah, that thing. Okay. So with this style printer, and this is just a knockoff of a very successful printer, so this functionality is very common. So we're going to go in here, we're going to select it, we're going to go to prepare, and I'm going to tell it to preheat the PLA, right, which is going to start heating up this piece here, right? This is my printer head, this is my extruder. So think of a hot glue gun with on crack, right? It's 220 degrees, and that's where the PLA is going to come out of. Right now, the old PLA spooled out in this piece, and so it's stuck in this line, and to get it out, I have to heat it up. So that's why I'm preheating the PLA, right? So there's plenty of different ways to do it. I just unthread this from there, and you can see this is the red that Mario piece I showed you printed from, and once this gets to temperature, then I can swap it out for this pretty rad purple, which is actually pretty FUI purple, which is pretty vibrant. So I will probably reorder, and you always want to start with a clean cut, right, when this, and you need to be careful that you do not let this thing unspool like weed eater wire, right? Because if you do, what happens is that it will form a knot in itself and will not spool out correctly. And since this mechanism right here, the feeder, doesn't know any different, we'll pull that entire spool over and drag the whole thing sideways and whatnot. So this is a pretty standard 3D printer. You push here to take the tension off the PLA, you feed it through. The brass gear here is what forces it through on your either wheel. This is an upgrade from the standard version of this printer. The standard version was all plastic, it was kind of knacky, and I had this piece crack underneath, right, this spring-loaded piece cracked. This was like a $12 anodized upgrade to this printer, and it has improved my prints 100%. So now we're looking at our controls. The PLA, the tip, this wicked little hot thing there, which I'm not going to touch, which I've done many times before. Ironically, would probably be a funny video where I burn my fingertip off. I'm not doing that, but you're seeing it extrude this PLA that's leaking out of it because it's hot, right? And I'm doing this with the camera, so I most likely am going to burn myself. And you see all this extra filament because I'm messy and I'm busy and I don't have time. Anyway, so now that this is free for this style printer, if you push in, which I will show you. I'm missing the GoPro right now. Right, so if I push in on this, I took out, and that's hot enough. There, it's extruded, which means it's melted the piece that's holding in the tube, and bada bing. I pulled out what was in the line, and I've cleared the tube. Okay, cool. So, now we take this piece that I've unscrewed, right, this little, yeah, that little fella, like I showed you, I unscrewed it from there. Right, you see where I've fed through the new PLA. So then I just push it in. I thread that guy back down. Cool, Bob's your uncle. You can still see here where the old PLA is hanging out. I depress this tensioner and I just push it, and it feeds through this ABS, which is an upgrade as well, and which I highly recommend from the standard. And now that I've made it into the feeder tip, you will see me pushing out, and I clear the tube, I clear the extruder head, and now I've got purple. Boom. I have changed my PLA in my 3D printer. Right? If my old uncomplicated self can do that, anyone can, and this should take some of the mystery out of a PLA printer. Okay, so cool. So, you put this down, right? You tell it, I want to print from SD. So the SD card is right here, right? Pops in, and this is what I go when I put a program on this chip, which I will show in a different video, I suppose, if people are interested in it. Leave a comment if you need some more instruction. I can show you how to adjust prints, blah, 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 and how to create your own. Again, not an expert, just a dad doing stuff. So, now that I've taken it out and put it back, we're going to hit Change SD Card, which reloads this program. I'm going to print from that little chip. And then, so, like I showed you, those question marks, okay, that's what was one print. And these are all loaded onto that chip. The switch holder, which is the Mario pipe and these other things, and again, this is a different video. Or the switch holder base. So I'm going to tell it to do this. Now, it's going to start preheating my PLA to 218. Again, fingerprint remover. And then it's going to start heating my bed to 60 degrees Celsius. Again, it's not a fingerprint remover, but you're going to want to be quick when you touch it. It's important for this bed to be level, right? This printer is a lot better than my A8, which is a very early version. This fan is already going. It's heating up the head, right? 207, 208. When that hits 218, and then the bed hits the 60-degree mark that's pre-programmed from the program, which I can show you later, I suppose, you're going to see some serious shit. This thing is going to do what it does. And that's going to run program on what I just told it to print. It's going to auto home, and then it's going to get to it. Now I have leveled this bed, which I suppose the next time I need to level it, I'll do a video on that to show you how to level a bed. This glass conducts heat very well, and it's non-adhesive, and since this is hot, I don't need to spray any tacky glue or anything to it. The heat of this is going to let this PLA lay down flat, and it's going to stick to it, right? So we make sure the bed's clear, there's no debris. So we hit 40, and it's climbing. And I mean, you can do any number of things. If you were printing with ABS instead of PLA, which was how 3D printers originally were, it needs to be much hotter on the bed and much hotter on the extruder tip. But while we're waiting for that to heat up, anytime you buy PLA, everyone has a different manufacturer. This is Hatchbox. I've had very good results. 1.75 millimeters is very standard, but it tells you exactly what animal this is, 180 to 210, right? I run it hotter than that because it keeps my extruder from fouling. Again, each one will tell you. See, like this, even there, this is the animal that I am. Print me at this. This says 200 to 235. So this density of this PLA is higher, but I've had good, you saw the red, so I've had good results. Your bed is leveled with these, right? Because this being level is important, because this thing is just going to start laying down patterns, which I'll video a little bit of, because this isn't going to be the longest video in the world, mostly because I have to get back to drinking and such. But this is Dad doing stuff, and Dad does this pretty frequently. I just will come in here and I'll start this, and when I wake up in the morning, different animal, I'm going to have a finished product. Hopefully, barring anything going sideways, which happens periodically. And then I'll show you other stuff. And I'm into, you know, grinding rocks and minerals, and well, we've got 5 degrees Celsius, which is significant in Fahrenheit, right? So we've got minerals. This is fire agate that we went and mined, right? And then we've got these little resin baby Yodas or Grokus, right? So I mess with resin. I guess I'll do some videos of that if anyone's interested. This little guy came out pretty good. Get good transparency. You know, this is the way, right? We have some bubbles, which again, this is a resin conversation. Oh, here we go. So that's its auto home feature, right? It's going to go teach the printer and verify where the printer is, right? Because it's met all the heating parameters. So it's going to get down there and it's going to stop. If your printer doesn't do this, then you need to adjust your bed most likely, or you have a cracked switch. These switches are janky. There he goes. Right? So he knows where he's at. I heard it make a noise, which means I probably need to grease something, which happens. See, now the auto feeder is going to slowly pull that PLA out, and on the bed it's going to draw this line, right? So this should take the mystery out of 3D printing if this isn't really your jam, right? If you're scared about it, these things are incredibly inexpensive these days. PLA is bulletproof. You know, if you get a good print and you have your stuff adjusted, it's going to run program, right? So this is going to, what it's going to do is a mat, right? And this is going to be adhesion base on this thing. And it would take a time lapse to really appreciate this, because this print is 14 hours. So when I get home from work tomorrow, I will show you what it's finished off of this build, right? And it's going to do this all night while I sleep and play video games. And I've had this thing run 24/7 for 6 months at the beginning of COVID to make masks and stuff. So again, this is a long video. You can fast forward through it, whatever's, but this is what I spend 20 minutes a night at any given time doing. And I'll show you the results in the morning. You know, leave a comment if you have a question, I suppose, and I can answer it or show you how to do X. But that is changing the PLA element for your PLA printer.